There's nothing more disheartening than spending 2 years of your life basically making a film that you care about, that you spend all this time and energy into and money, and then for basically it not to pay off. It doesn't make any money, doesn't get viewed a lot, and that's really disheartening. I think as a filmmaker, that's the type of thing that makes some filmmakers quit, and it definitely slows things down, because if you make that and you make nothing, then you have to raise money again, or you have to do your day job until you can film again. So you won't be able to basically reinvest, which you could do if your film makes money. So I think that's one of the hardest parts nowadays, especially with indie film, is actually making sure that you make money from it. And that's what I want to talk about today, is really to help you with that and to make sure that you're not just signing with some distributor where you never see a dollar. One of the most important things to know first is that if you're a filmmaker, usually what most people do is they go to a sales agent. That's 15-20%. Then they go to a distributor. That's another 20 to 35%. You're easily giving away 50% of your movie right there, revenue-wise. And that's not to mention marketing cap, marketing expenses. You gotta think that's another 3,000, 5,000. I've seen some contracts where they try to put 15,000 in marketing expenses. So that's both the sales agent and the distributor many times. So imagine like that plus all the revenue and stuff, and then maybe not transparent accounting. It's very easy to see why filmmakers sometimes don't make any money, especially indie filmmakers. And it doesn't help that there's a lot of distributors out there that are kind of shady. So that's another thing. It's really hard to know which ones are good, which ones to trust. So there's a lot of pitfalls. So it's really hard for filmmakers in that way. And I think that's why nowadays every filmmaker needs to know how to do distribution and needs to know how to do marketing. And I know some filmmakers are going to be like, well, I'm artistic, or that's for the business person. It's like, I think now as an indie filmmaker, you got to do both. Even if you're artistic, you also need to learn business. You need to be able to handle that side yourself and know exactly what's going on. You can't separate that anymore. The days that you can just give a movie to a distributor and you're just gonna make money, or you're gonna get a big MG, those days are probably over. So it's not something that's feasible anymore right now. So you really have to be able to do everything every step of the way now. As a filmmaker, you need to be more of an entrepreneur now than ever. The thing is, it's not something that I ever hear filmmakers talk about. I don't hear them talk that much about distribution, except for I've heard people complain about the distributors, or I've heard them say, oh, it's really tough out there. But I don't really hear of them being like, oh, I'm gonna learn how this works so I can be my own sales agent. That's something that I did on these movies that I sold. And both of these first two movies I sold, we got a minimum guarantee, which supposedly that's unheard of right now. Everyone's like, oh, you can't get an MG anymore. Yet both of these indie films with no A-list talent in terms of, you know, fame and everything like that, they both got MGs, and that's I was told was impossible. And now this third film that I'm selling as well will probably also get an MG, and that's only because I learned the sales side. And what I learned was that even sales agents that you might know, that you might have heard on podcasts, that have a good reputation, they don't even do that much. I know for a fact because I had a filmmaker work with one of them, and he showed me how many people he sent out to. He showed me how many distributors this sales agent actually sent out to, and it wasn't a lot. It was like 25 total. Now, if you don't know anything about distribution, you might think, oh wow, that's a pretty big number. That's good. He went out to a lot of people. That's not a lot of people. It's very little people. And out of those 25, you don't even know for sure if he did or not. He's not showing you receipts or anything. He's putting it on a list and saying who passed and who's interested. So 25 is not a lot. And what I saw as well is that that's all worldwide rights. Those aren't great deals for most indie filmmakers anymore. Worldwide rights, they don't usually give the best deals anymore. So I'll give you a recent example. One of the films that we sold, we got like a minimum guarantee just from Germany. You can bet that most of these sales agents aren't going to all these individual territories. Maybe if you get a really good one, but even then you're still giving up a big percentage. And they're not going to everyone. And how do I know that? Because I know how much effort this took. This was like 2 months, 3 months of working on it. Tons and tons of emails, tons of follow-up. Like I counted the other day how many distributors that we have on our list right now, just from sourcing it, finding it, and really like doing all the research on it, which took a lot of hours, hundreds. And we must have about 800 distributors on there right now. Which, by the way, because we don't gatekeep, and I don't want to gatekeep, selling it super cheap for like I think I put it at 99 or something. It's something super cheap, or 75, one of the two, but it's really cheap. And I put it on my website. I'll put the link down below. But that's nothing compared to how much time I spend on this and how much like my team spent on this. So you can check that out, so you have the tools to do this yourself. The only other thing you have to do is all the outreach, and yes, that's time consuming. The negotiation, that's time consuming. This last film, we kept track of everything. We talked to 225 distributors all over the world. 225. That's just the ones we talked to. That's not including all the ones that just didn't answer us at all. That's 225 that answered us. Either they passed, or they wanted to see more, they saw the full feature, they weren't interested, it wasn't their thing. Whatever the answer was, 225 that we talked to. Out of those 225, we got 15 offers. And there's still some that I'm waiting for, so hopefully that goes up. Like maybe we'll end up at 20, 25, that'd be nice. So, and that's with some minimum guarantees as well. But if you think of those numbers statistically, that is a small number that actually answered. So you gotta think, if you're not going to those numbers of that amount of people, maybe you only, like if you're going to 25, like the sales agent I was talking about, maybe he gets one deal. And that's not enough anymore. Like you have to do more, and you have to really go to everyone and just find, because you only need a couple of people to really love your film. You don't need everyone to love it. You need a couple of people. The other mistake that I see a lot of filmmakers make is they go with the distributor that has a name. They go with a bigger name, and it's usually a company that distributes a lot, so they don't care that much about your movie, and you're sometimes packaging your movie with other films. And they won't get an MG, and they'll go with the bigger name because they think it helps their career more, because they can say they sold a movie to X company. I don't know how much that helps anymore. I haven't noticed that it helps, unless it's like a really big company. I can see that. You know what I mean? Or if you get on Netflix, yes, like that obviously helps. Like if you get on Netflix, and Netflix notoriously underpays, but if you get, so that would potentially still be worth it, especially with the reach that you get there, and it's a Netflix film on there, that's worth it. But they're also not buying many indie films anymore. But just some company that has some type of name, I don't think is worth it, just so you can say that you sold it to that name. Go for way more companies, and go for more countries, individual territories, so that you can get minimum guarantees. A lot of times the US isn't even the strongest market anymore, not for indie film. So when you're pitching this, that's really the second step after you have all the contacts and you know that you're going to sell yourself, is pitching it. So you want to pitch it. You want to definitely make sure that in that email is included that it's a finished film. You want to include cast, especially if there's any type of name cast. But include cast, even include social media following. It can help sometimes, depending on how big it is. And obviously include the genre. That's really important. Especially now, like a lot of them are risk averse, and they're really looking a lot for more genre films. So definitely include that. And then include the trailer as well, and the log line as well. And those are the most important elements to basically show them, so they can take a look at it, they can see, and they can watch the trailer, which is probably, a minute and a half, hopefully, somewhere around there. And then they can let you know if they want to see the full feature film. So you can ask them in the email, if you're interested, I can send you the full feature. That's where you want to get to. And you're going to get a ton of rejections. You're going to get a ton of people not even answering you. But what you're also doing, even the ones that don't, take on your movie or reject it, everyone that answers is at least a relationship for your next film. That'll help you again. So it's important to really kind of try to see it positively, obviously, but remember that if you get 1 out of 100 giving you an offer, it's still good, that's fine. You know what I mean? That's more than you would have had before, probably with a sales agent. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that you don't need everyone to like it. I think, I was saying the number earlier, I think we were around 5% that kind of responded positively to the film. That's a low number, but if you're around there, to me, that's a success. You don't need that many. So I think focus on the right things, and focus on making sure that you hit up everyone, so that you know, from your perspective, you've shown it to everyone. You've tried everything you can, and you've given your film the best shot. It doesn't make sense to me that you would spend all this time, especially 2 years of your life or more, and all this time and energy on it, and all this money on it, and then you're not going to do the extra effort to make sure that you're emailing everyone. That makes zero sense. You have to do full effort and literally email everyone. And what's great about this, even outside of also getting minimum guarantees, which I know everyone wants, is that with more distributors, especially like if they're in individual territories, like we have Japan, we have Germany, we have Italy, we have UK, that type of thing. If you have like 10, 15 distributors, that's great. That's even just viewing wise, if that's your main goal too, you're gonna have more people viewing it, because it just makes sense. You're gonna have individual people working hard in their territory, and it just spread your risk out. Instead of one distributor where you hope that they're going to do a good job, now you have 10, 15 distributors that at least some of those are going to pan out. Even if you do get one or two bad ones in there, that's okay because you have all these other ones. I wouldn't take the risk on just one distributor. That's putting the hands into one person, one company that'll hopefully do a good job. Whereas if you're spread out, you know that you have more chances. So these are all the reasons that I think that you need to be your own sales agent. You need to sell this movie yourself. And if you want to make money, this is the way to do it, how to make money with your indie film. And there's obviously self-distribution, which I know some people talk about. I think that can work sometimes. You know, that's a whole different skill set. Now you're gonna have to learn even more. If you're just starting out, I would first try this. You also get the minimum guarantees, which is just safety in money that you're already making, if you get it. Now, if you get zero in minimum guarantees, or you get zero good offers, or no offers that you really like, yeah, then consider self-releasing it, self-distribution. You'll end up making more than you will with a distributor that's guaranteed. And you can pitch a lot of these yourself to these streamers, obviously. There's enough aggregators out there that you can get on Amazon, Apple, iTunes by yourself. You don't need a distributor for that. Now, getting on Hulu and stuff like that, that's more difficult. That's why you would want a distributor. But again, if you're not getting that traction, then release it yourself. And another thing I want to talk about that I want to explore in the next video that I'm working on right now is a theatrical release. There's a lot of distributors now that don't want to do theatrical releases for indie films, but there is an opportunity to self-release and to cut deals yourself with the cinemas. And I think that's really, really important. And that's something I want to talk about in the next video when I make that one, since that's something I'm working on right now. I'm definitely gonna update you guys how that goes and everything. But in terms of just your indie film and distributors, be your own sales agent. You will make more money and you will get your movie seen by more people. Let me know if that helps. And of course, like always, if you have any questions, let me know.